Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to chart a course through the cloud. And to do that, we're using a really unique Mapbook to help us navigate the incredibly complex world of Azure architecture, and hopefully turn all that chaos into some real clarity.
So, let me ask you this. Have you ever tried to build something new in the cloud and just felt completely overwhelmed? I mean, where do you even start? Should you use containers or go serverless? What about your database? Relational or NoSQL? The options, they just seem absolutely endless.
It really is like being dropped into a digital jungle. You're surrounded by countless services and configurations, and it's so easy to get lost. And the scary part is, making a wrong turn early on can have consequences that stick with you for years to come.
But what if you had a map? Well, in this explainer, we're using Stéphane Eyskens' Azure Cloud Native Architecture Mapbook as our guide. We're going to journey through that cloud jungle, look at some core services, trace the flow of data, explore the wild new frontier of AI, and of course, fortify our designs with security. All right, let's dive in.
Okay, our first stop is the cloud jungle. You know, the biggest challenge here isn't a lack of tools. It's the exact opposite. It's the paradox of choice. The real skill of a great cloud architect isn't knowing hundreds of tools. It's knowing which one to pick for the job, and more importantly, why. I mean, think about it. Every single day, architects have to weigh these huge decisions. Do we stick with the native platform services or bring in a specialized tool? Are we building for just one team or for multiple tenants? Every choice is a balancing act, a trade-off between cost, performance, and just plain complexity.
And this is where the whole Mapbook concept is so brilliant. It's not some 1,000-page encyclopedia you have to memorize. Nope, it's a visual guide, one that transforms the chaos of the cloud jungle into a structured, understandable journey.
So the heart of the book is a series of mind maps, just like this one. Think of them as charting the major territories of cloud architecture. Each branch represents a key domain, like security or data, and it shows how all these seemingly separate services actually connect to form a cohesive whole. It really does help you see the forest for the trees. So who's actually using these maps? Well, that would be the solution architects. They're the navigators on this expedition. They're the ones responsible for making those critical decisions that line up the technology with the business goals and, really, shape a project's entire future. But here's maybe the most important rule of this whole Mapbook. It is a guide, not a gospel. The point is not to just blindly follow its paths. The real goal is to use it to develop your own internal compass, your own architectural mindset, so you can navigate this terrain for yourself. All right, let's head into our first territory and see how this actually works, starting with the absolute core building blocks of pretty much any application. One of the first forks in the road for any architect is choosing a data store. Think of it this way. Is your data neat and tidy, like a spreadsheet with perfect rows and columns? Well, that's a job for a relational database. Or is it more like a chaotic but super flexible folder full of documents, images, and notes? That is where NoSQL absolutely shines. The right path really depends on the shape of your data. And the choices just keep on coming. As you can see here, even after you pick a service like Azure SQL, you have to decide how you're going to pay for it. It's kind of like choosing a cell phone plan. If your usage is really predictable, a fixed plan, what Azure calls DTU or provisioned vCores, makes a lot of sense. But if your traffic is all over the place, a pay-as-you-go serverless model that can scale down to zero could save you a fortune. You know, every application is powered by data. So how that data moves, how it gets processed, and how it's finally served up for insights, well, that's one of the most important paths an architect can ever map out. When you're dealing with a flood of data, you need a really smart system to manage it all. Architects will often turn to a proven pattern called the Lambda architecture. It's this clever way to handle data at a massive scale by essentially creating two separate lanes, a high-speed expressway for real-time data and a more scenic route for processing huge batches of historical data. Let's break that down. The speed layer is all about what's happening right now. It's grabbing live data as it flows in. The batch layer is looking at the past, processing massive historical datasets. And finally, the serving layer. This is where the magic happens. It brings it all together, unifying the insights from both the fast lane and the scenic route to give you a complete, up-to-the-minute picture of your world.
Okay, the very latest maps in the architectural world are being drawn right now for the super fast evolving world of artificial intelligence. This is really a place where architects are becoming true pioneers.
And this map shows all the different paths an architect can take. It's a landscape that has everything from traditional machine learning for prediction all the way to the latest in generative and agentic AI, where models can actually reason and take action on their own.
A key pattern on this new map is something called RAG. The best way to think about it is like giving a super smart AI a library card and an internet connection. Before it answers your question, it goes and looks up the latest, most relevant facts from your own data, which makes its responses way more accurate and trustworthy.
But how does an AI actually grasp meaning? Well, it's through this fascinating process of turning words into numbers, or vectors. And in this huge vector space, words with similar meanings are located close together. This lets the AI understand that the crane in construction crane is fundamentally different from the crane that flies.
And finally, no expedition is safe without protection, right? Security cannot be a fence you build at the end of the project. It has to be woven into the map from the very, very beginning.
The security map is just dense with tools. You have fundamental defenses like Azure's native firewalls, and then more specialized guards like a web application firewall, or a WAF, which protects your apps from common web attacks. The goal isn't just to pick one tool, but to layer them, creating what we call a defense in-depth strategy.
But more important than any single tool are the guiding principles. Zero trust basically means you assume a breach is possible, and you rigorously verify every single request. And you have to understand the shared responsibility model. Azure handles the physical security of the cloud, but you are responsible for securing your data and applications in the cloud.
So this brings us to the ultimate question this Mapbook really asks. When you build in the cloud, are you following a well-thought-out map, or are you just lost in the jungle? Because effective cloud architecture isn't about memorizing every single service Azure offers. That's just an impossible task.
It's about learning to think like an architect, using these mental maps and guiding principles to chart a course, to understand the landscape of possibilities, and to build something that's not only powerful, but is secure, scalable, and truly built to last.